Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. No. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
It's the last Friday in July, and we've got some good news and some bad news, and that is all maybe the same news. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, I'm with Nevada Current reporter Michael M.J. Lyle and my co-host David Figler. And on this Friday News Roundup, we're talking about that medical bills motivated heist at the Primm Valley Casino, the Neon Museum's big move to the Arts District, and President Biden visiting Vegas and then dropping out of the presidential race. It's Friday, July 26th. I'm Sarah Lohman, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Good morning, fellas. So just like last week, we've got a piece of news that's really big. It's a developing story, let's say. Do you want to play a little guessing game? What is it? What is the news we're not going to cover today, but we should mention?
I love games.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, well, Figler, you go first. What do you think it is?
The hot headline is the city of Las Vegas banishes 250 quote-unquote undesirable people from the tourist corridor and is looking to get more.
Did that happen?
Yes, that's a real headline this week.
That is a real headline.
Awful. No one should be called undesirables. Okay, well, that's
I don't think they use the word undesirable in that story.
But it's between every word.
Yeah.
Come on. The way that they're
I
approaching
know.
this situation. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's worth
that's
looking
clearly
into.
not it.
We'll see it next week. No, that's not even the one I had in mind. MJ, what do you think?
I mean, definitely Vice President Harris becoming the presumptive nominee. Is that a hot headline?
Yeah, and also becoming brat. No, although we are going to touch on that in our third topic today. No, did you hear that a suspect was apprehended in the hacking of Caesars and MGM that happened about a year ago today?
Oh.
Yeah,
It's been a busy year.
Busy year. Big news, pretty crazy. Okay, so you might remember that Caesars actually paid the ransom of $15 million. MGM did not. All their systems were down for a couple days. They lost about $100 million, but that was covered mostly by their insurance. But the crazy part is a couple like international hacking leagues took credit, but they've arrested a 17-year-old British kid. And he would have been 16 at the time. And at the moment, they're saying that he's the one that did it, not some sort of international hacking co-op.
So in between sessions of Minecraft in his parents' basement, he just decides to hack MGM. Wow.
Way to stereotype him, David.
Yeah.
Did I totally do that?
But I'm curious to see where this goes. I mean, where did the $15 million go? That's my big question. So we'll see. Developing story. We'll let you know when we have more news.
It's a lot of chips.
Okay, so let's get into the news that we are going to go a little bit more in depth on this week. MJ, this was all over the place. A heist, a robbery at the Primm Valley Casino. And I feel like Primm is not usually in the news anyway. So what happened there?
First of all, I did not do it. You have no evidence that I did it.
You have an alibi?
I have an alibi.
Good.
I have to break this news with a joke because it actually is kind of sad. So the basic facts of the story are it's a 70-year-old woman and her 63-year-old boo. They were arrested for stealing $625,000 in cash and $27,000 in casino chips. So that's kind of the baseline, and that's what has been getting the headlines, people talking about. But the one note on that really kind of I have more questions about is the potential motive, which is a $12,000 medical bill for medications that they couldn't afford, supposedly. So they went out to Primm in their car and got into a cage that apparently wasn't as secure as it needed to be. Were in there for an hour and got all this stuff, but then were arrested. And so for an hour.
That's a long time to be in a casino cage unnoticed.
Apparently she went back and forth several times.
Yes. So I will note, it's kind of interesting. I'm really curious if I didn't see any reporting if they have any past arrests or if this is their first incident.
Me neither.
I haven't seen any reporting about what their health condition was. And I think that plays in a role because I saw one blog say that it took a significant amount of confidence to remain in a casino cage for an hour. Maybe not necessarily
Confidence slash desperation.
confidence. Desperation, definitely. Medical difficulty. Like, there's a lot of things that could have played into that. So I'm really curious about some of the details that shake out of this. But for the meantime, yeah, these two people, elderly people, were arrested for stealing a big chunk of money, which they were able to find at their residence.
So, David, I know you've been following the story too. How can you not? Where do you think that the public's sympathies lie in the reactions you've seen to this story?
Well, it's always different when you have elderly people, especially if it turns out that they have no criminal history versus a brash guy coming in with a motorcycle helmet on or a gang of guys coming in and holding up a casino midday. Primm Valley Resort is a misnomer. It's not much of a resort. I've seen
I was not aware of its existence.
Yeah.
I was like, are they talking about terribles?
It was kind of like operational while, other places nearby were maybe shut down or limited during COVID. But it's not like, I wouldn't call it a major resort, though the word is in the title. I saw an influencer video of it, and it looked like a friggin' ghost town. So I'm not completely shocked that the cage, which apparently was decommissioned but also had over $500,000 in cash there, was not really being looked upon with surveillance or security. I think maybe they have one rent-a-cop that kind of like walks the property or something. It's a sad, sad place. Why they have so much money is kind of a weird question. I think that in answer to your question about public sympathies is like, what is that place anyway? Also, these people stole chips that weren't for anything. Like, they don't have table games anymore at Primm Valley. So these are like old chips with no value whatsoever.
But they could take them to, is it Silver Sevens or 7 Sevens?
Well, maybe, that's the thing is like there probably would have been a lot of questions if they showed up with a bunch of Primm Valley, But more than that, like the police recovered here almost everything. There's like $400 missing, which I totally want to hear the story of where they spent the $400. But like, I think because of that, people are like, this is just sad. And I always wonder if there's also maybe some gambling issues that are also involved with problem gambling. I don't know that that's the case here. It might purely have been the medical stuff. And I assume if you have $12,000 in one bill, that there are other bills that are probably out there too, or other concerns coming up, especially you're getting denial letters from an insurance company, all of which is to say, this is crazy. This is crazy that 70-year-old women are crawling through the opening where transactions happen and was able to stay there for an hour. One last question. She also showed up in her mugshot with a little bit of what looks like a shiner.
Yeah.
And that raises a lot of questions, too, what's happening
I noticed that,
universally.
Too. MJ, is there a bad guy in this story?
Casinos are always the bad guy, right? They should have just given them the money. They should have paid for their medical bills.
Big Pharma is the bad guy. They should not have life-saving medications for... Actually, I shouldn't say life-saving because I don't know what the condition is, but any medication. If you're prescribed something that you actually
let's
need
hope
to take
it's not
by a doctor.
Viagra. Let's just hope.
Viagra's not that expensive.
No, because I'm sure that's covered.
No, of course not. For men.
Yeah.
Men
It's
get all
easier
this
to get
stuff
than
for free.
weed.
Big Pharma. That's my final answer. Just kidding. Clearly, obviously, stealing is bad. But I think, does the punishment fit the crime is like a question that I often ask for what's going to happen down the line. I don't know. My sympathy lies with a lot of people. Obviously, you should not be stealing from anyone. But at the same time, we've seen a lot of desperation that comes with the economic injustices around our country. And a lot of that stems from medical bills and what people are able to get covered as far as prescriptions. And you can imagine, like David mentioned, it's probably, if this was her prescription, it's probably likely she's going to need that prescription more than one time.
Yes.
And so that's why I'm kind of curious of what other details come out of this story and what health condition that she does have. Is it kind of ironic that even though our jail and prison system is not medical friendly whatsoever, that she might actually get better care than what her insurance probably would have provided?
I mean, certainly, though, I had the same first thought, but then, of course, there are also these horror stories coming out about care being denied to
Yeah.
patients too, even though they're supposed to have inclusive medical care and should. There is a fascinating Reddit thread about this. Fascinating because it's quite thoughtful in a lot of ways. There is a lot of criticism of how the couple pulled off this crime. I do think it's smart that they robbed a Prim casino, though, where there is less care and attention than, down on the Strip, right?
But also, it's pretty obvious when you leave, like, what car you're... There's not a lot of...
No, this is the thing, David. We're getting there, because that part's a little crazy, too. But I also want to say that Reddit did praise the woman for still being able to launch herself over a counter at 70. I do think that Vegas loves to see people launch themselves over counters for whatever reason.
Oh, stop.
But the truth is they could have gotten away with it. They were very, very close, if not for our surveillance state. So, of course, there was, even though there wasn't an active person in this decommissioned cage, there was a video camera that caught her, but couldn't see her very well. The reason she got caught is because there was a police officer responding to a completely different incident in the parking lot. And his body cam caught her going to the getaway car, because she went back and forth several times and caught the car's license plate.
Wild.
And from the license plate, they were able to run the registration and then knocked on their door and arrested them.
This didn't seem to be very well thought out. Let's just be real. This
They
reeks
could
of
have
a
done it.
certain level of desperation.
Yeah. And one blog actually mentioned the fact of why it was not a good idea is there's only like 2 exits out of there. And so you got to plot
Yeah, that was my
multiple-
thought.
Yeah.
But if that policeman hadn't been there responding to another incident, they would have gotten away with this. I'm sort of curious about this because obviously the body cam footage is there to monitor the police person, but in this case, it was used to arrest a perpetrator that was of an unrelated incident. I don't know, is this a benefit of us being constantly recorded when we're out and about?
Notice the silence.
Yeah.
I know, it was a thoughtful silence.
A surveillance state is a complicated thing, obviously. But, sometimes you pick up stuff. I mean, look, how many crimes have been solved because of people's rings? The little doorbell thing that they have that just captures stuff happening in the neighborhood. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, I guess if you want to catch criminals, it's a good thing. If you want to, ensconce a degree of privacy, it's not.
Yeah, I actually refuse to have a ring. I don't want to participate in that paranoia. I'm also not on Nextdoor. Not into it.
It's probably for
MJ?
the best that some of the things that I get from my ring, some of the like news flashes that come up is just like, I saw a brown person. Like, should I be worried? It's like,
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what
boy.
Nextdoor feels like to me.
uh,
But I do like, have you seen that video of that bee pressing the ring, like
no.
digging and ditching? Yeah, it's very funny. It's on the internet. Have you heard of the internet?
Well, and there's lots of great coyote videos, too, that come off of rings. So
And that mountain lion one of that runner.
It's so complicated. I'm just going to go read like the collected works of George Orwell, and then I'll come back to you with a decision.
All right. Well, so this is bringing, I think, a lot of attention to a very interesting issue, and that is that in America, we struggle with healthcare. We're one of the few developed nations that don't have universal healthcare. However, in the state of Nevada, on January 1st, 2026, we will have the option to pick state option healthcare. Did y'all know that?
Yeah, I'm not so thrilled about it having been in the open market, although I guess it's great because access is way more important, but the coverage isn't always the best.
You know that I've been freelancing for 1 bajillion years. So I've been on Obamacare since its inception and other state option healthcare before that, essentially. And I don't think at this point we know fully what shape that healthcare will take. I'm sure it'll be rocky at first. But I wonder if having that free healthcare will prevent tragic stories like this from happening in the future.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast. The best way to learn a language is immersion, living where the language is spoken and using it every day. That's how I learned French as a kid. But if that's not in the cards for you this year, you can still learn a language the second best way, and that's with Babbel. I live in a city with a huge immigrant population. You probably do too. And in my hometown, a lot of my new neighbors speak Spanish as a first language, and we have lots of great Mexican and Central American and South American restaurants and stores. I wanted to be able to communicate just a little bit better with some of my neighbors. So I started with Babbel, the science-backed language learning app that actually works. And after just a few extremely enjoyable weeks learning Spanish with Babbel. I've already gotten comfortable ordering at a restaurant and eavesdropping on my girlfriend's conversations with her mom. Look, learning a language isn't always easy, but with Babbel, it is fun and it feels useful, basically immediately. That's why Babbel has over 16 million subscriptions sold. Plus, all of Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee. Here's a special limited-time deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
You probably know that spam, the kind everyone hates, that makes it past the filters in your inbox or even into sneaky fake text messages, starts with your personal data being sold. But of course it does. Apparently, every day, data brokers collect and sell your personal information to third parties. This means your address, phone numbers, health and financial records, even your social security number is out there for the taking. These insights are then used by scammers, total strangers, insurance companies, banks, and other businesses to target you. That's where Incogni comes in. Incogni scrubs your personal info from the web. Simple as that, and it only takes 3 minutes to set up. They tackle 180 plus data brokers and people search sites, and there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. Protect your data, your time, and your sanity. Go to Incogni.com and use the code CityCast for 55% off their annual plan. That's spelled out INCOGNI.com.
So, a happier topic. The Neon Museum is moving. David, where's it going?
Well, Sarah, yeah, it looks like they're going to move. A little history first, because I know you're a history lover.
I am.
In some form or another, the Neon Museum, with its collection of classic signs, many of which adorned hotels and motels and businesses and casinos throughout Southern Nevada, has been advancing preservation and presentation of these glorious artifacts since the 1990s. Fast forward to 2012, they became the institution people are probably familiar with over on Las Vegas Boulevard, north of downtown, near Bonanza, anchored by the historic La Concha Motel, the Paul Revere Williams building. Now, they likely chose that original spot because it was the site of an old sign boneyard maintained by the Yesco company that created a lot of these great artworks. It used to be very dusty and fenced off, and it was a fun place to bring people to kind of peer over the fence. And sometimes you'd be able to go in, but you had to sign all these releases because it was very pointy and probably very tetanusy, you know. But they converted that space, made it to what it is today. And now the director of the museum tells us that because the space is limited, only about 30% of the whole inventory of signs that they have is ever on display because of that small footprint. And underlying all of it, undoubtedly, the very less spoken fact motivating their move is that the area has become a little challenging. A lot of developments over the last couple of years. The implosion of the nearby Reed Whipple Cultural Center, the decommissioning of the Grant Sawyer Government Building right down the street, the closure of a big branch of the Las Vegas Library, the dearth of programming now at Cashman Field, the museum's proximity to a very high concentration of homelessness and the corridor of hope that services people who are homeless, as well as a proliferation of like Siegel Suites over new retail and development. So they've announced that they're moving to the Arts District with multiple locations. They say they're doing due diligence right now, so it's a little wiggle room, but they're talking about being on the tops of parking garages to be built and other large spaces to match their collection a little bit more and their aspirations and their impact in the community. The move would increase their space about a third, from just under 100,000 square feet to closer to 150,000 square feet. But I think that the 150,000 square feet is more usable than what they have now on their footprint. And they would have an address in the super hot Arts District. So probably with lots of hope that their profile would bring a whole new energy.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Aaron Berger, director, president of the museum, he's only been there maybe 4 years. He's infused the institution with a lot of energy, including this move, which I don't think anybody saw coming. The La Concha building is moving with them. It is going. But yeah, David, I appreciated you kind of painting a picture of what's known as the cultural corridor because, usually a museum like this moving into a space creates revival. The first time I went to the museum was 2008, and it was literally a chain link fenced off parking lot filled with broken glass. And I had a marvelous time. But since then, it does feel like the neighborhood has become more abandoned. You do have to, if you're walking from Fremont Street, you have to go under a highway overpass, which always wrecks neighborhoods, essentially. It's on the other side of the overpass. So what is this going to mean for the cultural corridor that it seems like one of the last sort of vestiges of like hope and light in that neighborhood is now moving to the Arts District. And what is that going to mean for the Arts District? I don't know. MJ, what do you think?
One quick question. Didn't that used to be across the street from the old Discovery Children's Museum too, if memory serves me correct?
Yeah, so they moved, and then the library closed down. As I mentioned, Reed Whipple is gone. So what remains there is the Mormon Fort.
Yep.
And the Las Vegas History Museum. Those are the last two remnants of what was the so-called and branded cultural corridor. Of course, the Ma Museum is sort of around the corner and up a bit, a little closer to Fremont Street Experience over there. But it was theoretically walking distance, but I think a lot of people were complaining about that particular walk as being a little rough. But yes, Discovery Museum used to be over there as well.
I know we're really, really hot, but Vegas people are kind of weak when it comes to walking. I go to other cities and like excluding summer, excluding June, July, and August, like the distance of walking is not that bad compared to other cities. We're a little bit soft here.
It's not, but it's shady, right? Like I've walked there in a group with no problem. It is a lot of unhoused people, but like they don't want anything to do with you normally, but it doesn't feel great. So MJ, what do you think like having the Neon Museum is moving out of this space? What do you think that's going to mean for the quote unquote cultural corridor versus like what is it going to mean for the Arts District?
I think I'll take those answers in reverse. For the Arts District, I do think about like, that's going to that area is already growing and already like being revitalized in pretty amazing ways if you're a young adult, if you're a metropolitan person, if you will. If you love like the environment and just walking bar to bar, that area is growing and becoming more vibrant than what it used to be. And so adding that, I think, has an excitement and it brings more excitement to that area, even though there are some issues with when you are revitalizing who you're displacing, which brings to the second question of like what that means for the cultural corridor. That is the concentration of the corridor of hope of all the homeless services. There have been rumblings that there'll be a new other services down there. So it makes me worried that we're just going to use that area to further concentrate poverty and not really look at other aspects of revitalization now that we're just kind of pulling out all the quote unquote fun things and cultural things to move it to other areas of town. So I'm really curious of what happens now.
MJ, you're always so thoughtful. I'm so glad that we have you on our team. David, that's your neighborhood. What do you think?
I think it's a win for the Arts District in that there is a diversification of things to do down there. It's not another bar. It's not another, restaurant or, niche retail. I am saddened, though. And look, you mentioned it came as a surprise, Sarah. It was no surprise to me. I think that the Neon Museum, both under its prior administration and current administration, have been rumbling about their location for a long time and reaching out to the city for help of some sort to like pay more attention to that area, to help get development down there, to make it more vibrant all the time. Because really, the Neon Museum, which does nighttime shows, and those nighttime shows are brilliant, and at nighttime things turn different. And I think this is a shame on the city thing. Look, and I've heard rumors and gossip about all sorts of different sites offering the Neon Museum a place to relocate out of the city, like down in near the Strip and other places like that. And, it might be more thoughtful to have moved it, but also thoughtfulness and development and placement of stuff is not something that our city or our county are particularly known for. I think that there was maybe some compromise to move in this particular spot, but I think the cultural corridor is now dead, and I feel very sorry for the Natural History Museum and the Mormon Fort. Mormon Fort can't move. I mean, that's kind of the situs, like that's the thing. But they're definitely going to suffer because of it. It's just sad that, the city couldn't have been more thoughtful in helping Neon Museum and that area do better.
Yeah.
And I actually want to say I'm excited for the expansion, but I also want to be mindful. I hope the city and city planners are mindful of who has access to those spaces too, and that it is open to everyone that lives in the areas, including those who've lived in the areas before it's gotten revitalized, before it's gotten some of the gentrification. I hope that we are mindful that everyone has access to these spaces because they are supposed to be for everyone, not of people of certain classes and income backgrounds and certain people that are moving and coming in to frequent these spaces. It's supposed to be for all of us.
Absolutely. And I come from a city that had a free art museum, the Cleveland Museum of Art. So I do think those spaces are important. I love the Neon Museum. I'm excited to see this expansion because I love that they're taking on this role of our social historians. And I love that Las Vegas is paying more attention to preserving its own history, too. So some of the biggest news this week, I don't know if you guys heard, but President Joseph Robinette Biden visited Las Vegas. Unfortunately, he contracted COVID and had to cut his visit short. And then last Saturday, he decided to withdraw his candidacy for re-election. And
Wait?
Yeah, you hadn't
Biden's
heard?
out?
Biden's out, baby.
I've just been watching TikTok. I didn't know.
Even on TikTok, I think they're talking about it.
Did I say TikTok? I've just been on my MySpace page for a while.
I do think about my MySpace account. It definitely
Are they still there?
exists.
Are they out there?
They're
Okay,
there.
I think
They're
so.
always
I think
there.
so.
Wow.
So Vegas was his last official campaign stop as a president, and now the baton has been passed to Kamala, who things are going extraordinarily well, and it seems to sort of infused everything with a little bit more excitement. There's been a lot of memes, and maybe also some of the misinformation, too. I should mention that Tucker Carlson on Twitter said that Joseph Biden had actually died, and this was a big cover-up.
In Vegas?
He
He
died
went out
here.
the John Entwistle way?
Yeah. And there's like this whole thing
Was
where
that a
he's like,
deep cut? Does anyone
but
get
he was
that
supposed to go to
reference?
the hospital, and I didn't get it. I just kept going.
Thank you for just humoring me. The famous bass player of The Who died at the Hard Rock Hotel after a night of debauchery.
Actually,
Who?
Yeah, John Entwistle.
I get it, MJ. Now that's
who?
humor I can get.
See now, I could play the game, but I can't take it.
Listen, the bigger point is he's not dead. He's fine. We saw him on TV, unless it was a deep fake on Wednesday night. No, it wasn't a deep fake. I'm not playing into misinformation. Back to the question. Vegas has a certain reputation. There have been some jokes. How has our city played into this idea of like misinformation and memes?
Well, first of all, I'm going to recommend to every human being out there, if you're interested in clever takes on events happening in Las Vegas, follow Kip Kelly on any social media. Kip Kelly, the director of the Beverly Theater, but also just a fun and brilliant young man who was the first to meme this out that, this is not atypical of somebody just like leaving Las Vegas and then going home and quitting their job.
Just in the general of like misinformation, I was reading an article and two things kind of jumped out at me. One, there was no mention of Elon Musk and the fact that a lot of this misinformation is being spread on Twitter, or what Musk calls X. I will never call it that. Elon, sorry. And he has endorsed former President Trump and allegedly had proposed millions of dollars to the campaign and then backtracked that. But the point is, misinformation is swirling about on the platform that he runs. He could easily make it sure that that is more regulated, but he is not. I think that should be noted that a lot of this information is being spread on a site run by Elon Musk, who definitely does not want to see a Democrat win the White House.
But speaking of tropes, I mean, there is the trope that all roads through Las Vegas. There's always apparently a Vegas angle to any big story.
Anyone.
We celebrate that in a lot of ways, but then we get all butthurt when those memes do come out that like make fun of us a little bit.
I'm not butthurt. I love it. Bring it. Can I read you one? Can I read you my favorite that's
please
come up?
do.
This is a tweet from Joe Biden. I can't believe he said this, but, he said, "I'm dropping out of the race. Visiting Las Vegas has reminded me that this country is built on freedom. I've realized that freedom for me is hitting parlays at the pool with a 3-foot margarita slush in my hand. Freedom for me is yelling Buffalo after having an old fashioned for breakfast. Freedom for me is running up Little Darlings with the boys at 3 a.m. after hitting the dispo." I don't know what a dispo is. Is that the dispensary? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Why is it at the dispense? But that's fine. This president stuff has been harshing my vibe. I'm out. Hoorah, baby.
Joe Biden official.
Joe Biden official.
Yeah.
It might have been faked by Vegas issues on Instagram, but I don't want to say.
You liked
I
it
don't wanna say.
nonetheless. Well, I mean, that sums up the boys' weekend in Las Vegas for quite a few, and maybe even our president.
I mean, I've shouted Buffalo more than once. I've never shouted hoorah, but it feels right.
There are worse things to catch than COVID in Las Vegas.
Hey, there's been a syphilis epidemic for a couple years.
There is.
That's okay.
Everyone get checked. Everyone know your status. It is okay. There's
know your
medications.
status. Get checked. Go to the States. They've got some penicillin for you. You're all good. You're all good. We're not saying that Joe Biden has syphilis. I just want to make that clear.
Oh my gosh.
Who do you wish, MJ, who do you wish would visit our city and then quit their job? No politicians.
Elon Musk.
What is his job at this point?
Yeah, I did make the joke though because he announced that he's pulling out of California after they passed a law that helps trans youth. And I wanted to be like, does he know that we passed laws that help trans people? Maybe he'll never come back to Las Vegas and take his stupid tunnel with him.
His daughter is trans?
Yes, and he said that she's dead to him.
Brainwashed by the woke left.
The woke mind virus.
Ugh. Okay, David, who do you wish would come here and quit their job?
I wish that every dinosaur classic rock band with members who are essentially octogenarians do their last show in Las Vegas, the last hurrah.
That's lovely.
Probably at the Sphere, but that's what Vegas, not where people come to die, but where they celebrate their vibrancy. And then, I don't want Mick Jagger breaking a hip in St. Louis, and then that's the end of the Rolling Stones.
He should break his hip here.
If he's going to break his hip, which I hope he does not, because nobody wants that particular move by Jagger, it should be a celebration in Vegas.
I bet he can still lunch himself over a cage counter, honestly.
That too. Whatever. Yeah. Have your fun. Gracefully exit like Joe Biden did, gracefully-ish exit in Las Vegas. So come on, all you classic rockers.
I mean, I kind of love it. We are already the retirement home for aging musicians in a beautiful way. I love that. MJ, David, thank you. This has been a refreshing deep dive on some pretty bizarre topics. Thanks for coming. Please come back.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
David, you work here. You will come back. Okay.
Absolutely.
That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. Our executive producer is Sonia Cho Swanson. Our producer is Layla Mohammed. Our newsletter editor is Rob Katchel-Reese. And our hosts are David Figler and myself, Sarah Lohman. Music is by OG Moose, Epidemic Sound, and all the kimonos. We record this show on the traditional homelands of the Nawuvi, the Southern Paiute people. And if you enjoyed our show, why not tell a friend? You can rate the show and leave us a review wherever you get your pods. And you should also subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Las Vegas. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Take care.
Yeah, when I was a kid, not a kid, when I was an adult. When I was a younger...